time, 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
All right, can you guys like
got
swing
20 minutes?
around?
45 minutes.
Well, he took it out in 20, so
Right.
put it back.
It's gonna be a little tough with the screws not being. I'm gonna have to just.
Oh.
Okay, just leave it like that,
Yeah.
Martin. Just leave it like that. That's all right. If you notice in here, inside here, we got some razors, some tabs, right? That they're used so that it raises the motherboard away from the metal piece, because you don't want to lay the motherboard on top of the metal, right? So you have to have some spacers, right? That the motherboard lays on, so it doesn't touch them. They are metal, however, the motherboard is designed to sit on the metal to metal there in that particular area. But you cannot have this metal touching metal because there's electricity traveling from point A to point B on different devices in here. So, anyways, first what I want to do is I got a whole bunch of other screws here, and I'm going to try to look for screws that should be going on there, and not the ones that he has, because the ones that he has are not what should be on there. Perhaps I may not have all the screws that I need. Yeah, I don't have all the screws that I need. See, so I'm trying to clean what somebody else didn't do right before, and that may be time consuming as well. All right, so I'm hoping this should be enough. 2, 4, 6, 8 screws. These 8 screws should be. You want to have the same type of screws for that particular device, or you don't want to have big screw, lower screw, different screw, fast screw, long screw, right? Especially you have to be careful with long screws, because if you go in too deep into a device like a hard drive, you may damage something or ground the device. You might want to come over here. So anyways, we want to line that up with our connectors over there, first of all. By the way, if I was to replace this motherboard, I would probably get a whole new piece of metal like that one that goes with the new motherboard that I'm installing. So let's see, right around there. So what I want to do is I want to start the screws. I don't want to tighten them down just yet. I just want to start the screws and get them going real quick. Sometimes taking things apart is not hard. Almost anybody can take something apart. Putting them back together could be a whole different story. But you know, you will find that in vehicles, sometimes when you're working on vehicles or even computers, you need to be careful how you take things apart, because it's not like if you're working on the junk yard where you can just rip things and it doesn't matter what you break. You have to remember that if you're going to put it back together, you don't want to break things that may be hard to replace or hard to find and then replace. Next thing you know, you're holding a computer for longer than what you would really like to. And that's not putting food on the table. Oops. See, I dropped a screw in there. You don't want to use your finger to get that. Preferably you would want to use a tool.
Magnet. A magnet.
Tool. No, you don't want to use nothing magnet in here, man. You got to be really careful.
Nothing magnet.
We have a three-prong grabber. Oops, that one dropped in there really good.
There you go.
Or sometimes it may be out of reach, and you have to use unconventional techniques.
Like the hammer.
All right, now I'm gonna tighten it down. You want to make sure that you get all the screws. You don't want to leave any screws in here loose that will potentially drop down later and make us a short circuit, maybe even a fire.
You don't want to tighten it too tight either, right?
You don't want to tighten it too tight. Besides, if you do, you may strip the threads in there, and then you're not going to be able to get it off. So that right there should be good enough. I'm going to go ahead and install the central processing unit in this one. And what you want to do is you want to look at the guide in here. It has a hole in there, and down there it has a tab. And I want to line those two up. And you guys hear that click, click? That means it's in, right? The fan is going to have a connector, a power connector. It has to be connected on newer computers. If this is not connected, the computer is not even going to start up. On older computers, you might be able to run the computer for a little bit, but then it's going to shut down on you in the middle of you doing some work. That could be a sign that a CPU fan is going bad. If you're working on something, the computer just shuts down, right? Or if you hear some noise inside, I've seen fans for the CPU go bad, and the bearing, there's a bearing inside, there's a ball bearing inside that's allowing it to spin. And they go bad, they begin to make noise, and they may even freeze where the fan doesn't turn. And what that does is it allows the CPU to overheat, and it may even burn your CPU, damage your CPU big time. You got to be careful with that. Anyways, all right, let's install RAM. Again, with RAM, you have to watch the guide holes, right? You have to look at the holes on the RAM stick, and then you look at the tabs in there. Make sure that everything lines up. And what you want to do is you want to apply even pressure until this locking mechanism comes to place. Make sure that it's nice and seated on there. If it's not well seated, you may find that it's going to give you an error, or you might not read that particular stick of memory. So you have to be careful to make sure. Usually it will click, click. Do you guys hear that? Preferably you want to make sure that they click simultaneously, so that you know for sure that you're installing the memory evenly. You don't want to do this to the memory when you're trying to install it. You don't want to wiggle it side to side, right? You want to go in nice and straight. Just like that. All right. This is a USB on an expansion port. I'm going to install that device. And can I have the expansion cards, please? We're going to put our sound card in here. I'm going to put my video card on an AGP slot. Make sure it's nice and lined up. And we're going to install the network interface card.
Network interface card.
No.
Nick.
Do they always go in that sequence?
Not necessarily. The video card is always going to go there if it's an AGP. Yes. But everything else may or may not.
So that means, that this one, the sound board can be right here, or...
Yeah, it can be on any PCI slot. As long as it's PCI, it may go on any of the PCI ports or slots on the motherboard. Okay. So you want to make sure that you put a screw on here. You don't want to leave any screws. You don't want to leave any of these cards loose in there, because again, it may cause a short circuit, or it's going to cause a device or an expansion card to malfunction or function improperly. Make sure we get it nice and tight. It's already taking form back here, if you notice. Right? I kind of overdid it. Oh, those are just the covers. Again, with these covers over here, you see how we don't have any devices here and here and here? You want to make sure that you have covers on there. Because what happens is that the computer is designed, the way the computer is engineered, is designed to circulate air inside in a certain manner. And the moment you're missing one of these covers, is going to disturb the way the air is supposed to circulate in there, and therefore decreasing the capability of keeping the computer at the temperature where it's supposed to be. All right. So now let me get some of these devices in here. And what you want to do is I'm going to install the optical drive. Usually we'll just slide right into place. And you want to line it up here in the front.